Okay. To start off in regards to with injuries, so what I'm going to do, we're in LA mode right now. So Wednesday, when the injury report comes out, is when I'll go ahead and be real specific with that and do that. But again, it's nothing other than where we're at for the gamesmanship part. So I just wanted to say that on the front end. We're going to have a 10-10-10 today, or we're actually calling it a 7-7-7. There's a few less plays than what we normally have, but get those guys back out there. And I think it's good to get the guys back in, being able to watch the tape. There were some guys that really shined and did some good things overall. Was happy to be able to get out fairly healthy for the most part, and now we're in that. This is the first time we've ever had this week that we're dealing with kind of everything's a little bit new, whether it's meetings, what you're doing, where you're at, and obviously tomorrow being when you got to get down to 53. So we're kind of in that weird place right now, but we're working towards everything good.
What is the timeline on cuts? You're going to have the full complement of guys out here today?
Well, they're working through all that right now. Ryan is. They're going to that's something that's fluid, and they're literally in there right now working through the numbers and where we're at, and we'll meet tonight as a staff, go through and really start finalizing as to where we're at. And so once we, this is that time right now where these guys have worked their tails off to get to this point, and unfortunately you have to have some tough conversations with them, and this is probably the worst part of the year is when you got to tell some of these guys, that it's not going to work out here.
Does that make today's practice difficult at all, knowing that you got guys out there that won't actually be here against the Rams, even though you're starting to?
Yeah, I think there's some of that. And then just numbers too, when you get to that point, and then tomorrow. So we had to kind of take some of that into fruition as we're making the schedule. But for sure, there's a little bit of that. But then there's also too, like we've just put together 4 or 5 weeks of us in training camp. And now, schematically as coaches, now we can see, okay, what do we do? What do we need to practice a little bit more? What do we think we have a good grasp on? And now you start kind of scheming a little bit.
Seeing the film from Saturday night, offensive line-wise, you had those guys out there for most of the first half. What was your full assessment of how that came together, and how much rust is there?
Yeah, when you guys saw me after the game, probably in the back of my mind before I watched the tape, I was thinking, I wish it was a little bit better. But then after I watched the tape, I saw some of the good things that we did. I felt better about where we were. So, again, schematically, some of the things that we were doing situationally in that game probably aren't realistic, but still trying to test the guys up front. And in the run game, there was some things they did better than I thought they did. So I feel better now than I did that night with the line. And I appreciate the way they responded for that 2-minute drive. I thought they did a great job, and Justin did a great job of giving guys chances. That pass interference Jesper had too. I mean, that's hidden yardage as well.
Is it a bit of a leap of faith with the offensive line going into week 1 without having seen a lot of them together even in practice?
I wouldn't say leap of faith, but I think for us, it's going to be very important that the next couple of weeks here, as we start getting into scheme and what we want to do, that they understand where we're at. I feel good about that part. The other part of it, too, is just, again, with like Affetti and Jason Peters on the edges, them working the calls and the signals with the guards. And then conditioning-wise, too, where they were. I mean, JP said he felt good. And, Affetti told me, I know he was upset about getting beat on the edge there. So first thing he said to me on the plane is he's going to fix that. So those guys care. It's a good nucleus of guys. We got depth behind them. So we again, we got to have a good 2 weeks here before we get going.
With Andy Dalton, you have said so many different things since even before you got him on the practice field about what you liked about him. He was available a year earlier. Was there interest from you guys then? What was your thinking at the time when you could have gotten him last year?
Yeah, there was. When we went through that, every year is a little bit different with your situation and where you're at. And he was definitely somebody that we looked at. But obviously, that's not the direction that we went or the direction that he went. So, it takes us to this year, and again, a new situation for us. And it was something that we all felt really good about. And I think that Andy, since he's been here, has shown us really he has from OTAs from the first day he got here as a leader in OTAs to doing stuff on the field to practice in training camp to being able to now we're going to have an opportunity. On September 12th to see what he can do and what we can do as an offense with him there. And, I Same thing with Justin. Like we feel like he's worked his butt off to get to this point. He's done a great job. But going back to Andy now, he's done what we've asked.
Matt, what's the plan with Justin during these game weeks? Does he run the scout team? And how do you make sure he gets extra snaps with this development?
Yeah, I mean, so in this role right now, it's one of those situations where, and I'm sure you probably have heard other quarterbacks from other teams, previous places, is you're in this role right now, is you're trying to go out there each and every day and just make great throws when you're presented an opportunity to drop back and throw against our ones. So he's got to do that. You know, don't go to a different mode, which I know he's not going to. Continue to get better every single day. You can work on all your fundamentals. You can do everything you need to do, and always stay prepared, which I think is, again, a positive and an attribute. One of his greatest strengths is preparation. So he'll just continue to do that, and then when he's out there in practice, just make he does not like running the cards, and so we got to continue to help him understand that you can grow in that role.
After Jalen and Kendall, how do you feel about your depth right now at corner, and where are you at the nickel?
Yeah, so that competition with those guys there on that back end of with Kendall and Artie Burns and you know, some of these other guys, it's been good, and I like where Kendall's at. I think the depth behind, like when you say nickel position, I think that Duke Shelley and Christian Marquis have been doing a good job of battling, and that's, again, stuff that we're going to be working through here tonight and into tomorrow as to where we're at. But we feel good with where we're at. I think Sean's done a really good job. You know that Sean's background is that nickel position, and he's coached it. He knows it. He understands it. So he can put those guys to use their strengths within this defense. So I feel good with that. Same with the corners too. So you want to be able to see a guy like Kendall come in and do what he's doing, but the depth guys behind him, they're all competing. And I think that's going to be one of the spots, Brad, where, you know, tonight into tomorrow, we got to really make some big decisions.
Matt, if something were to happen to Andy during practice next week or two, would Justin be the starter, or would it be Nick?
No, Justin would be the starter if something was to happen to Andy.
Now, where's the Trufant? Is he back?
He's not yet. It is personal, and it's strictly personal. He's not back yet.
Can you make a decision on a guy? I mean, when you haven't seen him in.
Right. No, that's one of the discussions that we got to go through tonight, and I know that's you want to be able to be available, and he has his situation too. So it's never an easy one, but I know in the end we'll make the right decision. But he's not here. It's personal.
Man, what about like the run game in particular? Do you know what you have there based on the preseason, especially considering, frankly, that you're going up against a front in week one that's probably better than anything you saw when you had that success last year. So do you know, I guess the question is, do you know what you have in the run game without having had a lot of preseason production?
We feel good with where we're at there, and we just gotta go out and do it.
Matt, you've played the Rams every year you've been here.
Mm-hmm.
You used to play Matthew Stafford a lot.
Yeah.
What are you expecting there? What's that challenge with adding Matthew Stafford to what you've seen?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they've presented challenges to us every year. In 2018 we were able to get them, and in the last 2 years they got us. So I think the respect that I have for Matthew Stafford at quarterback and what he's done in this league is special. His talent is unbelievable, and now you go ahead and you put him with a great coach with Sean McVay, and that offense and the players and weapons they have around him, they're going to do a lot of good things. So I know that for us, we're going to be challenged. That's going to be an exciting time for Sean and for our defense, but he certainly does some. And the thing with him is so many off-schedule throws for Matthew. Like he can be in scat protection and empty. He can push up and do the no-look throws. He can throw any dagger throw across the middle, 20, 25 yards, left to right, right to left. Anticipation. He's tough. So they're going to present a big challenge to us.
Matt, generally speaking, with your quarterback experience, what are the drawbacks or the risks to starting a young guy before he's quote-unquote ready?
Well, there's every situation's a little bit different by the teams. I think if you go back and you look at the history of some of the first-round quarterbacks that are drafted and when they end up starting that first game, there are some common denominators and, with run game and defense, with those guys. So I think some of that goes into, again, these young guys being able to learn the defenses, the different protections that you see, things change, where that's at. But that's probably the biggest thing, is making that game go super fast to a little bit slower. And, so I think every team's a little different with the guys, that they're going to start right from the rip versus guys that might take a little bit more time. But Justin is doing a really good job at trying to get better and better each day, and I like that about him. He's smart. He processes well, but he still has time to grow. I mean, they all do. So I'd say the biggest thing is probably just making the defense slow down a little bit.
There's some fear that bad habits creep in if the defense is moving too fast.
Well, it could, and, sometimes if that happens, you could say, well, it's good they learn from that, and there's some quarterbacks that have had that happen, and there's others where it just becomes bad, and it can ruin them. So I think you're trying to find, okay, where's that happy medium with them, and with whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Justin or somebody else. But we just got to keep growing him like I know Coach Flip is doing, and Justin wants to do every single day. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Every time you've brought up, or every time Cohen's been brought up, you've been quick to mention how diligent he's been in the rehab process. Is there more to work back from than just an ACL?
No, it's for him, it's every single day he's coming in and working, like I just said. And the time-wise, when y'all asked me a month ago about the time, it's hard to say. I mean, he's at a point right now where he's getting better every day. He's not where he needs to be right now, but he is improving. And the only thing that we can do is just keep grinding with that rehab. That's all he can do. He's unbelievable in the meetings. I mean, he's the same as he's always been. Physically, we just got to keep taking it day by day, and I'm just not going to put a timeline on him.
Did he have a second surgery after the initial ACL?
Did he have a second surgery?
Did they go back in or anything? Is that timeline?
No, I don't think it changes the timeline. I think for him, I got to go back and find out about all the little scopes or surgeries that these guys have. But for him, I just think he got to a point where it was a little bit of like the scar tissue and just the healing and everything like that. So it's where he's at right now. And all I can appreciate from him is working every single day, and he's done that.
To what you said about Fields earlier, about how can you clarify or be a little more specific as far as how he'll be spending his time in practice and game weeks in terms of scout team or taking first team reps?
Yeah, no, he'll be scout team, and he'll be out there trying to do everything he can to give our defense the best look that they can give. And but within that, there's a lot of concepts that we see and that we do where he can continue to make plays. Like, don't go out there and just be a guy that's just throwing the ball around. You're not, like, you want to grow as a quarterback in that position. So that's what he understands and knows, and that's all. That's where we're at right now with him.
And do you feel like you?
Is there any? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Coach, I know you're tired of this, and honestly, I am too. But just to be clear, the decision at quarterback, is this sticking to the plan that you guys put it together in the spring, or do you still feel that Andy Dalton gives you the best chance to win today? And are those two things the same?
Yeah, I would say the plan that we have, which was to be able to evaluate all these guys, Andy, Justin, and Nick, was for all. They're all kind of on their different deal. They're all, Andy's got a guy that he's been in here 10 years now in the NFL. Justin's a rookie, and then you got a third string guy that's been a Super Bowl MVP, right? So the Flip has to coach them a little bit differently. Going into the OTAs, we evaluated where they were. Where's Andy learning this offense? How quick can he? Where is he? He aced that right away. Justin, where are you at with learning how to call the plays? That's the start. He did a good job there. He got better when he came back in training camp. So he grew. He got better. Andy came into training camp, and from the very first day in all of our practices, he's gotten better, right? And we can, you go through and you watch the preseason and you see where we're at, and we didn't do well when he was in there at quarterback with the three. But, I can go back to saying that there's a lot of variables behind that for the preseason. So that's where, when we're evaluating Andy, we know, okay, we feel really good in practice with where he's at. Justin's continuing to grow. It's everything that we've wanted in this quarterback room this entire offseason, okay? So you go back to, you say, okay, well, we said from the start that Andy's a starter. That's where we're at. And now the next part that we said is that we're going to evaluate, right, how we play as a team, as an offense, and what are the whys. And those guys all know that. So all they can do, Andy can be the best quarterback he can be, and we'll evaluate him. Justin, be the best quarterback you can be, right, in this whole entire training camp, in the preseason, and now as a number 2. We're watching you every play. We're not just done watching you. We're watching. What are you doing? And now you go into the production, the wins, all that stuff. Where are you? And that's what we got to evaluate. And we're following our plan, and we feel good about it. The quarterbacks have been great. They understand it, and that's the why for all of us.
So Matt, compared to the original plan, has Justin's performance in the preseason, has that raised the bar for Andy and the offense as far as what has to happen to keep him?
Andy has known from the start where we want to go with this offense. He understands that. So the bar has always been high for him. Andy has to control Andy. Andy can't control something that's out of his control, which is Justin. You know what I mean? So if Andy controls Andy and we have success on offense and we play well and we're winning, that's a good thing. I think we'd all understand that's a good thing while this kid develops and continues to grow and learn and watch tape. But at the same point in time, Justin needs to do everything he can from week 1 in the video, in the meetings, at practice, always being prepared because you're one play away. You're one play away. And so you can't sit back and say, I'm number 2. I can't, this isn't what I wanted. And he doesn't do that. But you got to be prepared like they all do. The third string guy's got to be prepared at all times. So Andy's not affected, but he wants to just be Andy and be as best as he can be, and the same with Justin.
I have a Nick Foles question for you.
Yep.
His performance in the second half the other day against guys who he, quite frankly, should do well against. Can you read anything into that? And if he is, if he doesn't get cut or traded or anything, how do you anticipate he's going to be as your third string quarterback?
How will he be what?
Yeah, as your third string quarterback.
Yeah, no, he'll be the same as he's been this whole time. I was really excited for the way that he came in and played. I thought, regardless of again where he played in the game and who he played with or who he played against, he ran the offense efficiently. I mean, there was times where they brought cover 0 and he got rid of the ball. There were some things he got to. Twice they did it. They popped a 0 on us, and he didn't get hit because he knew where to go with football. What a great teaching tool to be able to show these other guys, hey, within this offense, you better get your eyes back and look, and quarterback, you better snap your head and eyes around and get rid of the ball. And he did that. And so to be able to help those young guys out, I think it's good, and it was great for Nick.
Early in the offseason, you mentioned you needed to find out this offensive identity as quickly as you could.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the preseason behind you, training camp behind you, do you think you have a good sense of that offensive identity? If so, could you speak generally about it? I can't go into.
Yeah. No, I do. I feel really good about where we're at. Again, we got to show it. You can't talk about it. We can't say. We got to go out and do it week 1 and continue to grow the rest of the season. So I think that I want to compliment our coaching staff for taking. I mean, they're really doing a great job, I think, of teaching a lot of the intricacies of the offense, detail-wise. Our players realize how detailed we are, and if you're not detailed, you're going to be detailed. So that I feel good about where we're at, but again, you can't talk about it. You have to go out and produce, and we need to be able to do that. So I think that's only fair. And it's gonna, again, it's a long season. So we got to make sure that we just want to hit it running.
Thanks, Matt.